It's 35 days to election 2020. Hello and welcome to the Midday News with me, Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah. This bulletin is coming to you live from Joy 99.7 FM in Accra at digital address GA0993341. It's also live on Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi, affiliates across the country including ATL FM Cape Coast, Radio Max Takrade, and around the world at myjoyonline.com. Coming up.
The fact that the process was not very open. There are so many issues in terms of the concerns raised by citizens, and I'm not too sure which of them the special prosecutor will be interested in investigating.
President Akufo-Addo directs Finance Minister to put before Parliament a Japa royalties deal following recommendations by the Special Prosecutor after a corruption risk assessment conducted by his office. We have details. An Electoral Commission mounts spirited defense in sharp response to allegations of planned rigging by the opposition NDC, which also accuses the EC of printing over 150,000 extra ballot papers without the knowledge of political parties.
4,000 plus per constituency. You can't say these ones are mistakes because when you look at the figures, the percentage are not uniform. They are deliberately planned to rig the election.
We'll hear from the Commission.
And in sports, we'll hear from Ghana Football's Cash Club, Legon City FC, on their motivation for signing former Ghana captain Asamoah Gyan despite concerns over his fitness.
Also in this package, Ghana Journalists Association mounts pressure on the police to find killers of Ahmed Swale and bring them to justice as International Day to End Impunity Against Journalists is observed today.
I inclined to believe that the killers will not only be found, but will be made to face prosecution.
And later, Ghana heading for a second wave of COVID-19 infections. The stark warning from experts who say the widespread disregard for COVID-19 protocols is responsible for the rise, and this could be disastrous for the country.
What we are observing is that the disease is there. It's very much prevalent.
We've got details in a moment. Do stay. Thanks for your company. The details now. Joy News is learning President Akufo-Addo has directed Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to put the Japa royalties deal before Parliament following recommendations by the Special Prosecutor. This was after a corruption risk assessment conducted by his office. You may recall in August this year, Martin Amidu's office requested documents on the Japa deal from the Finance Ministry for a corruption risk analysis. The analysis was expected to identify potential weakness which could present opportunities for corruption to occur in the arrangement. Now, this was after some civil society organizations raised red flags about the transaction. Take a listen to Steve Mantia, who speaks for the CSOs.
Of course, concerns have been raised about what things like cronyism, nepotism. Again, the process itself appears to have been opaque. Again, the manner of appointment of the legal advisors also raises some concerns. The concerns border on, again, nepotism, but also the fact that the process was not very open. Concerns have been raised about the registration of the Japa itself in the tax havens and all that. So there are so many issues in terms of the concerns raised by citizens, and I'm not too sure which of them the special prosecutor will be interested in investigating. We actually recognize that not all the issues of concerns to us as citizens will be addressed by the investigation of the special prosecutor. In particular, there are issues bordering on the basis of the valuation of our royalties for the purpose of this transaction. There are also concerns about the choice of this model.
That was Dr. Steve Mantia. Well, in a statement released today, Mr. Amidu said the process was concluded as far back as October 15 and his office had forwarded findings of same to the Presidency and Finance Ministry as far back as October 16. We are learning the deal may be returning to Parliament. Presidential correspondent Elton Brobe has been digging up some information from the Presidency and Parliament and joins us with more. Hello, Elton. We're here in the House will further scrutinize the relationship, investment and allocation agreement captured in the deal. What more are our sources telling you?
So I've been speaking to persons close to the presidency, and they've been giving me information which we are likely to have it formalized in the hours to follow. Now, we are told to expect a formal statement from the president, and this statement will communicate formal suspension of the JAPA process and further instruction to the finance minister for the agreement, namely the relationship agreement, the investment agreement, and the allocation agreement, be sent back to Parliament for greater scrutiny. We are also being told that the finance minister will be asked to take into consideration all the relevant feedback he has received from stakeholders, engagement with the civil society groups, faith-based organizations, House of Chiefs, etc. Now, my source is also telling me that the decision of the president also takes into consideration the confidential anti-corruption risk assessment made by the special prosecutor and is pushing for greater transparency and public engagement in the process moving forward. Now, this is what we've been told, and my information is that in the hours to follow, we're likely to have a statement that will formalize what my source is telling me.
Elton, you've also been checking with the leadership in Parliament following this directive from the presidency. What are they telling you?
So I spoke to the chairman of the Finance Committee in Parliament, whether he's been told to expect a formalized JAPA deal, bill that may come before the Finance Committee to scrutinize and possibly put before the plenary for a decision to be taken on it in view of what we are learning from the Special Prosecutor's Office and the federal directive that is coming from the President's Office. Now, my information is that because of the limited time available for this Parliament, they are likely to go on recess on Saturday and will come back after the elections. Any document that may come before the Finance Committee and the plenary as well may not have space on the floor of Parliament. So if any action will be taken on this JAPA deal, it's likely to be taken by the next Parliament, that will take place from the 7th of January 2021, Bernice.
Finally, before you go, Elton, do we know exactly what the recommendations of the special prosecutor were?
It is very unclear, and in fact, I've been pushing to get what the recommendation may be, but all my checks have hit the block because my information is that the recommendation was for the eyes of the president only. But judging by the information I'm taking from persons close to the president as to the action taken by the president, which will be formalized very soon, it's most likely you can deduce from the president's action the recommendation that went to him that there should be greater transparency, there should be greater scrutiny, and that's the reason why the document may find itself back into the House of the Representatives in Parliament for them to take a second look at it and then deal with the matters that may be raising their eyebrows as far as the JAPA deal is concerned. Bernice.
Thank you very much. That's Elton Brobe. He is a presidential correspondent. Now, the chairman of Parliament's Public Accounts Committee says CEO of the Public Procurement Authority, Ejenim Boating-Ejay, should have been banned for life from public office by Shrash for abusing his office in the contract for sale expose. Mr. Ejay was dismissed on Friday by President Akufo-Addo after Shrash ruled that he was unfit to hold public office. The former PPA boss was busted in a hotline documentary by investigative journalist Manasseh Azuri-Awone for alleged sale of government contracts. Here are excerpts.
My investigation, however, reveals a disturbing trade in government contracts. Even more disturbing are those behind it.
So the purpose of this trip to Talent Discovery Limited is to establish two things. That this company actually wins government contracts, and two, that it sells these contracts to prospective buyers. So you'll be dealing with them, not with your real name, of course.
Not your cousin, but your name is on the registration document. It's not my cousin, he's my in-law, my brother-in-law.
Your brother-in-law, and
yeah.
What's his name?
I will not disclose his name.
Francis Ahim.
Yeah.
And then you are the majority shareholder and also a director.
I'm not a majority shareholder. I'm a director.
A director and then 60% shareholding.
No. It is 50-50.
And who is the second shareholder?
Just two of us.
So it is your company?
I have a shares in it.
Mr. Ejay said though Talent Discovery Limited had been brought to the PPA on many occasions for approval, he was not in a conflict of interest situation because he made full disclosure to the board. We have information that this company gets a lot of government contracts and then sells them.
They get a lot of government contracts? I'm not aware of that.
But that's the information we have.
Yes, I'm not aware of that.
But I'm saying if you get to know as a shareholder and director of such a company, how seriously would you take that?
I'll take it serious and tell him that that is not acceptable.
You had the excerpt of that Joy News Hotline documentary by investigative journalist Manasseh Azuri Awoni. Contracts for sale. Now, Deputy Head of Joy News' political desk, Winston Amo, has been studying the Shraj report and joins me in studio with more details. Winston, Shraj, during its probe, investigated claims of whether or not Mr. Ejay had improperly used his office for personal gain. But Shraj went a step further and looked into his accounts. What more did they find?
Well, so if you look at the report, now Shraj indicates that the respondent has been taking advantage of his office to improperly enrich himself, to which the respondent, denied through his solicitors. However, we can see from the records, for instance, that he received some funding, and so in one of his accounts, in a particular bank, he had 3 accounts. He had a dollar account, he had a CD account, and a euro account. Now, if you look at the dollar account, for instance, it will tell you that between April 2017 and August 28th, 2019, a total of $516,000 had been credited to the account, and he withdrew $504,000. When it comes to his CD account, we're told that from 2017 when he was appointed to 29th August 2019, a total of 3.83 million Ghana cedis was credited, and 3.81 had been debited from his account. Then his euro account in the same bank had 54,500 euros, of which 37,000 had been debited between 2018 and March 2019.
That was Winston Amwa. He's deputy head of our political desk here at Joy News. Well, chairman of Parliament's Public Accounts Committee, James Klutia-Veggie, tells Joy News the 5-year ban is not stringent nor deterrent enough.
Good enough?
Maybe it's a good beginning that the president is acting on the recommendation of Shraj. So for the start, it's a good beginning. But I'm wondering why 5 years? Why should he come back to public service in the first place?
Well, Mr. Veggie also wants the state to go after Mr. Ejenim Boateng Ejay's finances and recover all the monies he earned from the contracts his private firm sold.
From these activities should be taken away from him. Definitely, he must sold some of the contract and make some money. And so if the findings reveal that this is the amount of money he made out of this back deal, the money should be confiscated by the state. And then he should be sacked out, recommended by Shraj, which has been actually taken on, and then should be banned from public service completely. So once the monies he made from this dubious action is confiscated, is sufficient enough. It will serve as a deterrent to other people.
That's Chairman of Parliament's Public Accounts Committee, James Klutia-Veggie. Let's head to Parliament now. My colleague Joseph Opoku-Gakpo joins us, and he'll be telling us how the minority in Parliament has been responding to our first story on the President directing that the Japa royalties deal goes back to Parliament. Joseph, what do you have for us?
And then I'll come to.
Hello, Joseph.
Hello, let's quickly get a comment a bit about the President's directive from John Jinapo, who is a member of Parliament Finance Committee. Thanks very much for joining us. So we gather that the President has directed that the Japa deal be brought back to Parliament, particularly the portions having to do with the allocation agreement and the investment agreement. Your reaction?
Well, I have not been informed officially. We are waiting to receive official communication. Before anything is brought to Parliament, it has to go through the proper procedure and due process. And so, as we speak, we are not seized with any document. There was a one-sided approval in Parliament, and based on our sign orders, it means that there was approval. And so, if they are coming back with that same document, then it can only amount to some changes. And we don't know the kind of changes they are talking about. Number two, we haven't even cited the report from the special prosecutor. We want to see that risk assessment, how it was done, what went into it, the underlying assumptions, the conclusions thereof, and why the special prosecutor hasn't published that document. We still maintain that that deal is a bad deal. We maintain that we ought to pull the brakes, build consensus, and ensure that we do the proper thing. We are just about rising this week. We don't want to see a similar occurrence of what happened. It's that same procedure that has brought us to this quagmire. I think that the president should exercise some amount of restraint and allow us to do what is right and go through the due process.
So there's a chance that if the minority may possibly work out like it is the first time, depending on what you see in the final report that the social prosecutor.
The national interest is paramount to the minority. We are not interested in a walkout. We are interested in safeguarding the nation's assets. We are interested in doing what is right and proper. Our duty as a minority is to represent the people of Ghana and do what is right and proper. And let me assure the people of Ghana that the minority side, led by the Venerable Honorable Haruna Idrisu, would do justice to this and we would serve the interest of the country.
So, he's a member of...
Apologies, we lost Gakpo there, but he was speaking to John Jinapor, a member of the minority in Parliament. He was reacting to what we are learning, that the President has directed the Japan deal to go back to Parliament. Away from that, the board chairman of Cocoa Board has bemoaned the illegal adjustment of weighing scales by state-owned produce buying companies. Mr. Hackman Owusu-Agyemang says these activities continue to make the farmer poorer. His comments come at the back of a Joy News expose which reviewed illegal activities of some licensed buying companies and farmer society groups that engaged in the age-old canker with purchasing clerks and licensing buying companies by altering weighing scales to rob cocoa farmers. Listen to Mr. Owusu-Agyemang preferring solutions when he spoke on the probe with Emefa Apau.
It's really unfortunate that these things come up from time to time. I believe we're doing everything we can. In some instances, when the farmers, some of them are illiterate, they go to weigh their cocoa. They make sure that a kilo or two is not so. At the end of the day, when they take off all the kilo, they are getting as much as the farmer themselves are getting. So I would not challenge you at all if you said you have done your research. We are looking at the possibility of having scales, electronic scales which are locked, which you cannot tamper with. And that one will make sure the farmers get really...
How long are we going to get that? Because
the
farmers are
we started by buying the pruners. They are expensive, by about 100 million.
Chairman of Cocoa Board, Hackman Owusu-Agyemang, speaking to Emefa Apau on the probe. This is your election headquarters and it's 35 days to the December polls. The Electoral Commission has rejected claims by the opposition National Democratic Congress that is printing over 150,000 extra ballot papers in an attempt to rig the December elections. The Commission says it's had to review the number at some polling stations to be able to stick to the 5% requirement of extra ballots printed for contingencies. But at a news conference on Sunday, the NDC accused the EC of deliberately keeping these details away from parties in an attempt to rig the December polls. Manuel Kranting has more in the following report.
The main opposition party, the National Democratic Congress, is accusing the Electoral Commission of failing to present to it the ballot statistics for the printing exercise. Professor Joshua Alabi is National Campaign Coordinator of the party.
From the ballot statistics received from the printing houses, as coming from the EC, we have analyzed the figure from 13 regions and observed that there is an excess of over 150,000 ballot papers being printed beyond the extra 5% required.
Deputy Director of Elections of the party, Daniel Amate Mensah, gives a breakdown of their findings.
The total figure, in addition to the 5%, for Central Region is 45,750. Averagely 2,117 per constituency. Bono East South 11 constituency. The total excess is 47,000. Averagely 4,000 plus per constituency.
You can't say these ones are mistakes because when you look at the figures, the percentage are not uniform. They are deliberately planned to rig the election.
Or the Director of Elections of the party, Elvis Ifria Ankara, is therefore requesting an immediate explanation from the Electoral Commission as to the reasons for these extra ballot papers that are being printed.
Give us copies so that we can validate whatever goes on. That should tell you that this thing was planned. And as my deputy was saying, if you look at the statistics and the way that in specific constituencies you see specific numbers, it shows you a very clear agenda. Now we are aware of it. So we want the EC to come and explain to us how come that we have these numbers.
Manuel Cranton with that report. We can now hear from Acting Director of Public Affairs at the EC, Sylviano, who says the disparity in numbers is not an attempt to rig the polls. She spoke earlier on the AM show on the Joe News channel.
So depending on each scenario, for example, if you have a polling station that has, for example, about 8, you need to add 5% because of the numbers involved in hundreds, 50 cents. You need to strategize and make sure that some may go a little above it, but it doesn't mean because you don't have them in the specific numbers, you have them in 50s, hundreds. It becomes very difficult to stick to the exact number. But that doesn't also mean that we are increasing the ballot.
Okay, now the NDC say that before the printing, you didn't provide them with the ballot statistics and the serial numbers.
They are supposed to get all that.
I take it that unlike what the allegations that the NDC is making, you did provide them with the ballot statistics and the serial numbers.
What I mean to say is that the NDC is there. Not only the NDC, but all the political parties are there.
Yes, that's
and
we do.
I haven't heard anybody talk about the fact that we are doing something on. If the NDC has a genuine issue, I believe that they have to approach the leadership of the Electoral Commission. But I can assure you, without any shred of doubt or uncertainty, that we are not doing anything, contrary to what we have been doing.
You heard Acting Director of Public Affairs at the EC, Sylviano, speaking to Mama Vio Wusu-Abuaje earlier on the AM show on the Joe News channel. Meanwhile, the minority in Parliament is demanding the immediate release of the certified copy of the final voters register. The law requires the EC to do so at least 60 days before any major election. But with just 35 days to the December 7 polls, political parties and candidates are yet to receive their copies. Yes, Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu.
The voter register available to political parties as required by law. Certified copy, not provisional copy of it. The second, Mr. Speaker, is he himself said priority. Mr. Speaker, is becoming too ambitious. You said 1 day, 1 field. 1 day, 1 field. So, Mr. Speaker, 1 day, 1 field, converted by my poor arithmetic.
Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu there. Now, 8 persons arrested in connection with the murder of Infantimana MP Eko Kwanza Hayford have pleaded not guilty to robbery charges leveled against them. Police prosecutors say they are also on a manhunt for other suspects they believe are connected to the robbery and murder of the legislator. Away from Ghana, candidates in tomorrow's elections in the United States are wrapping up their campaigns ahead of Tuesday's votes. Democratic candidate Joe Biden is spending the remainder of his campaign in Pennsylvania, a battleground state that has become increasingly significant to himself and President Donald Trump, who held 5 rallies in 5 states on Sunday. Here's a report by Joe News' Justice Baidoo.
Hello? Hi, is this Alyssa?
Ex-President Barack Obama making a frantic last-minute call to voters in a push for Democratic candidate and his Vice President, Joe Biden.
I am doing phone banking for Joe Biden, and you're one of the...
This has been described as an election of a lifetime for the United States. Close to 100 million people have already cast their ballot even before Election Day.
Election Day is Tuesday, and this is going to be a really close election. And I'd love
we're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more.
President Donald Trump, certain he has got this. And so too is Joe Biden.
We can do this. Take back our democracy now.
All the polls say Joe Biden and the Democratic Party will win this election, but with lessons from 2016 still fresh in the minds of many, everyone would wait until the last ballot is counted. Justice Baidoo, Joy News.
Stay tuned into your election headquarters as we bring you updates on the U.S. election live on radio and TV tomorrow. This is the Midday News. Still to come, Ghana Journalists Association mounts pressure on police to find killers of Ahmed Swale and bring them to justice as International Day to End Impunity Against Journalists is observed today.
I'm inclined to believe that the killers will not only be found, but will be made to face prosecution.
John Mahama has a
solid track record of investing in the health of Ghanaians. He built ultra-modern hospitals such as the Ridge Hospital, University of Ghana Medical Center, Bank of Ghana Hospital, Maritime Hospital, as well as many district hospitals, polyclinics, and CHIP compounds. The next NDC government will provide free primary health care for every Ghanaian. Our free primary health care plan will provide quality health care for all Ghanaians at no cost to the individual. Under this plan, no Ghanaian will pay for health care in district hospitals, polyclinics, health centers, and CHIP compounds. Free primary health care will eliminate cost barrier to health care and guarantee all Ghanaians universal access to quality health care. You will not need a national health insurance card to benefit from free primary health care. John Mahama, provider of massive hospital infrastructure, is ready to deliver free primary health care to all Ghanaians. Vote John Mahama. Vote NDC.
Business, like the world, evolves every day, from the tangible to the digital, from the farm to the stock market, from ideas to legacies. This is Business Connect.
Business Connect shows Mondays at 9 p.m. only on Joy Prime.
Joy Prime, real entertainment.
2020, yes, woman, now. 2020.
Fellow Ghanaians, through planting for food and jobs, food is available and prices are relatively cheaper for us all. Farmers can dream of a better future for themselves and their families. This December, remember your vote will make a difference in the life of a farmer and make food affordable for you and us all. Let's protect our progress. Vote NPP. Vote Nana Akufo-Addo for 4 more years to do more for you.
Thank you for staying on the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. It's now time for sports with Hans.
And Ghana Premier League side Legon Cities FC says they considered factors beyond Asamoah Gyan's fitness in arriving at the decision to sign him on transfer deadline day. Gyan has played only 1,088 out of a possible 9,000 minutes of league football since 2018 and sustained 7 different injuries over the period. Here is spokesperson Kwame Juma-Ajiman.
Well, we've considered all that. We've considered sporting and commercial value in trying to get skipper Asamoah Gyan into our setup. And let's not forget, since I believe the first or second week in March, I mean, a lot of footballers, especially in the Ghanaian football space, have barely had anything to do with professional football. So I'm not too sure he's probably going to be missing so much, or he would have to do so much to get into, if you like, football shape to go out there. Yeah, Asamoah Gyan being the professional that he is, he's already back in the gym, working very hard to ensure that he's very much in the shape. As for injuries are part of the sport, but I believe that Asamoah Gyan is pretty much determined to go out there and make things happen for Legon Cities Football Club.
Kwame Juma-Ajiman is spokesperson for Legon Cities FC. That's your sports.
Thanks, Hans. And the Ghana Journalists Association is mounting pressure on the police to find killers of Ahmed Swale. At a ceremony to commemorate International Day to End Impunity Against Journalists, its president, Afil Moni, said 7 Justice to Swale and his family will usher renewed hope in the justice system and give journalists the confidence to pursue their work.
We were assured by His Excellency the President last year that the killers will be found, and just last week he reinforced the assurance that the killers will be found. Our prayer, and we are inclined to believe that as the Commander-in-Chief, when he speaks, it carries through. We are inclined to believe that the killers will not only be found, but will be made to face prosecution, and if found guilty, they will be punished to the fullest extent permissible under the law. This will help cut the cancerous spread of impunity, which rears its ugly head in certain sections of society.
That was GJA President Afil Moni. Now, Ghana is heading for a second wave of COVID-19 infections. That's the warning from experts who say the lack of adherence to protocols is urging the country steadily back to periods when it was recording around 1,000 cases per day. The country is recording between 70 and 80 cases daily on average, but it is a worrying increase from a few weeks ago when new daily cases averaged only 20. Remember to wear your mask and stay safe. Mapito Sibidi has what's happening in entertainment for us.
Yo. As a station, we stand for peace, and that's why Drive Time is having a live worship concert. Let's listen to host of Drive Time, Lexus Bull.
The run up to the elections, why not seek the face of God? Preserve the peace that we're enjoying. So we decided to line up some of the worship leaders in Ghana to help us praise and worship God and say a prayer for the country every Monday in the month of November. So we lined up the likes of Uncle Atu, who's going to kick it off later this afternoon at 3 o'clock on Joy FM. We have Sissy Chum, and we have SK Frimpong and a few others who will be joining us in a moment of live worship.
Yo. Join us today from 3 p.m. to 5:30 p.m.
Mampito is part of the Yo Nation, I guess. But that's how we end this edition of the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. And here at Joy News, we are your most credible news source, and we stand for peace. Don't forget, we've got more news for you on myjoyonline.com. Later at 1, we've got Business Report right here on the station. Don't go away yet. Up next is Living Word with Pastor Mensa Otabil.